Hi, Will. Here's the explanation of the asymptotes as we were talking about tonight. So I'm going to start with a vertical asymptote, and a vertical asymptote is just any point on the graph where the graph isn't defined in terms of the y value, in terms of a vertical direction, okay? And so a vertical asymptote would look like sort of a vertical line going down like that. And what happens is the graph cannot cross the asymptote. It's like a fence. It's like invisible fencing or something. And so what happens is the graph will kind of come towards it and then sort of almost like glance off of it. It doesn't touch it. And so you can tell the graph is approaching something because it starts to behave weird. It starts to sort of go up like that really fast. Or the other thing it can do is it can come at it and then it can sort of go down really fast like that. And that's sort of how a graph behaves around a vertical asymptote. So the important thing for us to do is be able to identify if we have any of those on our graph to begin with. And the way we identify those is we're basically saying that the function has no defined value for that value of x. So on the graph that I just drew, at this particular x value right here, we can't define a y value for this function. It doesn't have a value for that value of x. It's undefined. And so what we're going to do is try to make this equation undefined and find any values of x that might do that. And so in that case, the only way we can get something being undefined, if it's a rational function like a fraction like this one, is if we have it over 0. And so what we need to do is consider the denominator, it's 2 minus x, and have a look at it and think to ourselves, is there any value that I could put in there for x one day that's going to give me an overall value of 0 in the denominator? So if I solve this equation, I can see that x equals 2 is going to do that. So I would say that I have a vertical asymptote at x equals 2. And that's the line that I've drawn over here. And I'm going to put a 2 here now on the x-axis because I can tell from this graph that that was the value where this function is undefined, okay? So one of the things that we do after we found that value is we try to find out how the graph is behaving or acting as it comes closer and closer to that line. So what we do is we just pick a value just before we would get to 2 if we were coming from left to right. So something like 1 would work. And so what we do is we say that as x approaches 2 from the left, that's what the negative is, of this function. So we're looking for the limit as x approaches negative 2 of 3 over 2 minus x equals, and we're going to put a number like 1.9 in there, or 1 or something like that. Let's just choose 1 because we would go through 1 before we got to 2. And so 3 over 1, and all we're really interested in is that positive or is it negative? If it's positive, then it means that the way I drew this arrow here is actually wrong. It should be that as we're coming towards this line, the value of the function is getting higher and higher in the positive values. It's going up towards positive infinity. If I do the limit as x is approaching 2 from the right, I'm going to do the same thing, only I'm going to do it as 3 over 2 minus a value that comes after 2, because now I'm on this side of the graph. So if I choose a number like 3, I would go through 3 before I would get to 2 if I was going this way. So that's going to give me 3 over minus 1 is not minus 3, and that's a negative. So that tells me that on the right-hand side of the graph, I'd be going down towards negative infinity. And so that's really helpful when we're drawing the graph of this function. It's giving us the shape of the graph already, and we're getting a really good idea of what it looks like just because we can see how it needs to behave when it gets to the asymptote. So that's a vertical asymptote, and I'm going to give you a different video on horizontal because I'm obviously long-winded and this video is 5 minutes long already. So I'll upload this one and send it, and then I'll make you a separate one on horizontal.